If you always did what you always done, you always get what you always got. I'm like, what keeps you going? What keeps you hungry? Because I always love to hear people's why. And he's like, I literally had nothing. And so it's never been about the money. It's always been about the growth. It's been about the opportunity. We have reps that have been in the industry for 10, 15 years. And then they reach out to me and they're like, hey, do you know of any jobs that you can just hand me and that you can just send me an application for? Well, no, like go do the work. And that's the number one thing that we always talk about. And what I always did at New to Medical Device Sales and when I was in medical device sales is, welcome back to First Year in Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin. And today, my friends, I'm coming to you with an episode that hopefully can be extremely helpful for each and every one of you because we are having a lot of fun conversations here at New to Medical Device Sales, which we also do this podcast called First Year In. I've been having a lot of conversations with medical device companies as we're getting into the conversations of them looking for candidates. They're wanting to get more people, add to their sales team, grow their sales team, all those conversations that are starting to come, which is super exciting for us. But the reason I wanted to come to you today is I wanted to give you guys some insight because the number one thing I hear from reps that are at companies around the new year is A, will I have a job? Or two, maybe I'm looking for a new job. I'm not fulfilled in my current role. So that's why I wanted to come here today and just let you guys know what I'm hearing and what they're looking for in the candidates that they're getting. Whether you have experience in med device sales or you don't, again, this podcast is more for people in med device sales. If you're not in med device sales and you want to learn more how to break in, we have the podcast New to Medical Device Sales, which you can always go check out, which we've helped out over 2,000 people. So you can always go check that out. I just wanted to come to you guys today to, again, always provide value. So first off, this is the week after Thanksgiving. I hope you all ate your turkey little hearts out and had so much good food. And I just hope you guys all know that when you guys are going through this process, that you just need to focus on yourself, your background, and what you bring to a team. What I mean by that is so many people are always trying to talk about other people, what they're doing, making the jumps, whatever's coming into their life. And for you guys that are trying to make the jump to a new medical device company, or if you got laid off, it's just your situation. Don't try to go wrap yourself in others because again, the reason I'm telling you this is I watch a lot of like pity parties like happen of like, oh, I hate my company or you hate your company or hey, I got let go. And then everybody like starts to like go around together and then they stay not getting jobs longer or they don't move on. Because again, then they like just, oh, I'm not happy, all the stuff compared to people who just take action and go. And that's hopefully this podcast can just help you. So really just going into, I actually had a conversation yesterday, 2 days ago, and then also 4 days ago with med device companies. And they're all having the same conversations is, they used to look for, hey, you have experience at ADP or you have experience of working this med device company. But the thing that we're having the conversations and why they're coming to us a lot of times is because A, they know we work with people who have been in the industry and we have like a pool, like literally right before this, I have somebody who's a regional manager calling me and I have a feeling they're either looking for someone or they, looking for a job. So when we're looking with companies and we're looking at like, hey, what are they looking for? It's getting away from having all this quote unquote experience because like the conversation I had today with one of the VP of sales and marketing was, many of these companies will say, hey, you need to have this experience. You need to have this many years. This is what you need to do. Your background needs to be here. And what people are starting to see, especially the CEOs that I'm talking to, is there's understanding that it may not carry over to the current role. And what do I mean by that? Is the conversation we've had is there's a lot of experienced reps who come in and say, hey, I can do ABC. Hey, I have these relationships. And it's what a lot of startups look for, right? Hey, do you have experience or do you have relationships in this division or this industry that you can go and make business happen right away? But a lot of times why that doesn't work long-term is because people will go, they say they can do all these things, which most people just don't do what they say they can do. And then they burn the relationship because maybe the product needs a little more work or whatever it is. And then they burn a lot of the relationships in the first 6 to 12 months of the year, first 6 to 12 months of the job. And then like continued growth, it can be challenging because are you getting someone who's hunting or someone who's just leveraging relationships? Because ideally, you would want somebody who knows how to hunt and also has relationships, and then you can get the relationships, have it go, and then you leverage those relationships to then go hunt even more and grow the business, and then they can bring on more reps because you grew the business, and etc. But going on what these CEOs continue to keep having conversations about. Number one is just the untangibles, the things that you can't teach. And what do I mean by that? It's, hey, do you show up early? Hey, do you actually reach out to people and follow up? Hey, do you actually do your research before you even get on a conversation with a CEO, with a doctor, with a surgeon, with a staff member, with a lunch that you're having. And the reason I'm saying this is because the joke I made is a lot of the times we see people saying, hey, I got 7 years experience in the industry, but then they can't send a follow-up email once these people hire them at over $200,000. And then this makes all those VPs and all these managers go nuts because it's like, we are paying you top dollar and you can't do the minimal things. And that's why we've been able to help people with no experience get in at over $150,000, $170,000, get these roles as full line reps starting out, just like I did, because I didn't have it. But when you do the job to get the job and teach people that, hey, I'm going to follow up, I'm going to show up. Like my interview that got my managers so impressed is I showed up 25 minutes before our interview. I was in a full suit. I had everything ready because I wanted to make sure if there was any technical difficulties that I was there, I could figure it out. And it just shows that I'm prepped instead of a lot of people that I know will have an interview and they show up 2 minutes before. Well, what happens if, let's say, Zoom updates? Well, now you're late. So again, there's just the things of, it's the conversations of like how you do one thing, you'll do all things. And I see it a lot with people in the industry and even people I work with. Like we work with CEOs, we work with med device companies, we work with other companies that are wanting to do sponsorships and other stuff with us. And the easiest thing to say is most people just don't do their job well. Everyone always is like, hey, how are you guys having success? Or how do you get people placed? We just teach, do what you say you're going to do and then actually do it. And people are like, oh, that's groundbreaking. What do you mean? It means if you say you're going to show up 15 minutes early, show up 15 minutes early. If you say you're going to be there on time, show up early. Right? If you say that you can do a certain thing on Excel or whatever, an email or whatever it is, make sure you actually do it, because the thing we see the most in people getting hired in medical device sales and actually having success in medical device sales is most people coming in and over-promising and under-delivering. And that's the number one thing that we always talk about. And what I always did at New to Medical Device Sales and when I was in medical device sales is I always made sure I under-promised and over-delivered. I made sure I never did things that I couldn't follow through with. So if I told somebody I could be there, I would be there. I would always say, hey, I think I can only get you this. And then I would get them maybe a little bit more quantity of the things they needed. I always made sure that I was open and I had good conversations with them about what we could do and what we could actually deliver on when I was a rep. Now, how does this carry over to you? Again, if you guys are getting on conversations with CEOs, my CEOs that we were talking about is they were like, hey, you know, when I mentioned, hey, I bet you are sick and tired of people not showing up on time. I bet you're sick and tired of, like, for example, I just did an interview with somebody who didn't even do the research of what our company does. And it's like, well, we will not be hiring you because you didn't even know what we did. And then that same person tells us, well, I can do this and I can do that and I can deliver your company this. And it's always the overconfident. And then the best part is we gave them a test to see it, and everything they told us they could do, they didn't do it. They actually postponed it. They said they literally could do a certain thing today and the next day. And then they were like, no, we can't even do it. And so the reason I'm just sitting here telling you is that's most candidates, not even in just med device sales, just in life, that are like, I can do ABC, I overpromise. And then they actually get in the role, which these med device companies are literally paying hundreds of thousands. Like the one I talked to today, it's $100,000 base with $100,000 OTE with uncapped. So the app plan's $200,000 plus the car stipend and everything, but with the opportunity to make $250,000, $300,000 because it's uncapped. And they have a lot of reps because they're newer. They're more of a startup / scale up, is they have a lot of reps making north of that. And so the reason I'm just saying that, but most people will say, I'm willing to work, I'll do the long hours. And then they're like, but not on Thursdays because little Johnny has whatever. Right. And so the reason I'm just saying that to anybody that's looking for a new job, or you guys are like, hey, maybe I'm done with my old position or I just lost it. If you're going to start looking at these companies, first thing is just make sure whatever you're going to tell them that you're going to be able to follow through with, because that's what I see the biggest challenge. Number two, if you are going to be looking for a new position, please do not just apply. Now, here's the thing. If you have the med device experience and it's really fitting to the job description, okay, you might get through with like, I might just send an application in. But my conversation I always have is like, for example, the job I just mentioned, that's $200,000+. Well, a lot of people want that job. There's a lot of applications. So why would these people choose you? Why are they going to be like, yeah, I want Johnny to be on our team, right? And so you have to be able to get on phone calls. You need to be able to network and be able to show that you're not just sitting on your hands, because even reps, that's the most common thing I see. We have reps that have been in the industry for 10, 15 years, and then they reach out to me and they're like, hey, do you know of any jobs that you can just hand me and that you can just send me an application for? And it's like, well, no. Like, go do the work. Like, go actually find a job and then reach out to the people and have them actually know who you are before you even apply. And then you can go through that process. Because again, it just goes back to why I always say, whether you've been in for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, it really doesn't matter about the years of length. It actually matters about what you're doing inside of that time. And so again, we get people who've been in the industry for 10 plus years, but then they're doing the same tactics that they did 10 plus years ago. And again, the market, especially now in the job market of med device sales, is way different. This is nothing groundbreaking for everyone. And they're like, I already know this. But most of you don't do it. Most of you don't come prepared. You don't do everything that you need to do. You then just sit there and apply to 50 positions. And then you put on your LinkedIn, open to work, which is the worst thing I've ever seen, because that's just saying, hey, please hand me a job and I'm begging for it, which, just so you know, every top performer I've ever known never has put that on there. Why? Because they will just go hunt and find the job themselves, or they've made a network within the years of in the industry that they can reach out to those people right away with and actually know of positions that will vouch for them. Because when I make that comment of somebody reaching out to us and saying, hey, can you just get us? It's someone I've never talked to, right? And so that's where the whole conversation is like, you have to continue to do the job. And when we're telling you to network and reach out to these people and get on conversations for jobs and new positions, it's, are you showing up? You're listening to someone who came in as a full line rep with no experience. Then I went and was a regional sales manager at Innovis with under 2 years experience in the industry, beat out people who had 10 plus years of experience at Stryker, Boston Scientific, all the big companies that you want to mention. And they're like, oh, well, just got lucky. And then we closed a massive deal at the company and grew that and everything. The reason I'm saying that is because I did everything the same. You show up, you do your research, right? When I did my first interview, it was only supposed to be about an hour long and ended up going about 3 hours, 2.5 hours. We hit it off, but it was because did my research, was able to know my numbers. And that's just a side note. Know your freaking numbers. The amount of human beings I get on that don't know what they actually did. They just make numbers up so they sound better. Most people are lying on their resume anyway. And then even if you do lie about your numbers on your resume, you don't even know the numbers that you made up and how they would even add, right? Like, for example, if you're like, oh, I did 1,000 cold calls. Well, what's 1,000 divided by how many working days? And you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. You guys, simple laziness that people just don't even do. Everything that you're doing you have to do to get the job. You have to be able to go through the whole process, because again, why was I able to get jobs with companies at way higher pay raises and amounts that I was making previously without the experience? It was because I came prepared. I showed that I knew I was doing. On that conversation with my CEO, he was asking me about the relationships I had, what I had been doing, why do I feel like I'd be successful? What are the things that like make me a human being to be successful? Because if you go back and listen to the podcast that I did with Johnny Cafaro, or you listen to some of the different ones that we've had with guests, you know, the one thing like Jim Hunt or any other podcast that we've had a lot of success with people, or some of my older podcasts, it's the biggest thing is you all think it's like, I need to know the right person. But what you guys don't understand is you're not the right person to know the right person. And that's why you don't get the opportunity. And what that means to most people is most people won't do the work on themselves to be like, are you the right person to put up for a job for $300,000 to know that they can go and perform? And again, going back from, let's take your lens off of yourself and being like, of course, you're all going to say, yes, of course I am, because I'm amazing. But then it's like, if an outside in looked at, if the VP of sales of that company looked at you and you came in and showed up how you are talking about you're showing up and you just said, I did this, would they truly think that you're worth $300,000 and they should hire you? And most of you can't sit there with a straight face and say yes. And that is why you don't get hired. And you know that you won't put in the work. The amount of people in medical device sales that I meet that are like, I'm willing to do all the work, and then it gets time to do all the work and then they make excuses. It just blows my mind. Like, one of the things I love is like when I did my massive deal, if you go back to watching my YouTube of day in the life of being a regional sales manager, you'll see me why everybody else is at a national sales meeting and they're all partying, and I got invited because I knew people and they're like, hey, come hang out, all this stuff. It's 9 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock, I'm actually setting up our stuff and making sure. And then I found out that they were missing some certain things that we absolutely needed for the demo. And I was just going above and beyond in my job to make sure that they had it so the demo went well. So then we could go in and have the conversation of the PO and all that stuff. But it's taking your job serious all the way through. And that was one of the things I respected the most about Innovis Medical and like being with Elliot and Jordan and being with that team is, first off, they were just a bunch of guns. And like, that's what Elliot would always say is a bunch of guns. And I loved it. Is like, he's an amazing person at hiring, and he knows how to build a good sales team and just a great culture of people. And the reason I'm telling you that is for people to know that, hey, I need to do this. I need to make sure that I do my job. But when we were on the stand, when we were ready to do conferences, when we were out doing our job, it was expected to do excellence. Right? And I always say this to our team. We don't expect perfection because it doesn't exist. I don't expect perfection, but I expect excellence. Are you being excellent today? Are you showing up the way you should be? Are you having conversations? Are you following up? Like, I just always laugh because people are like, how'd you have so much success when you're at these companies? And not just me, like our team. Well, it's like we were expected to go do 10 hours on the stand, and we built the stand, which most companies just had every other person build their stand for them. We'd build the stand, and then we'd do tear down at the end of the conference. We'd build the stand. We would then be on stand for the conferences for the 8, 10, 12 hours some days. Then we'd have dinners with other companies. But then during that time, we'd have to go back, and we still were expected to answer emails from the previous workday. We were also expected to reach out to the new leads that we just had. Like, there was so much stuff that was expected, and that's why we were able to grow, and they were able to grow so quickly. What is your expectation for yourself? Are you showing up to be excellent? And that's the thing, is like, it is so easy when I'm talking to these CEOs to stand out, to get hired in medical device sales at a new role, even 150. Like the job roles that I was talking to, like I said, 200. They had another one with an associate, but again, it's a scale up and I have it. Going to 140 at an OTE with the commission structure. And it's like, are you doing what you need to do to being able to have that opportunity? And my favorite part of all this is then I talk to people about OTEs and they're like, well, that's not guaranteed. And it's like, yeah, it's not guaranteed if you're not a good rep. And so the reason I'm sitting here telling you is like, I've never got told an app plan and never expected to not hit that app plan. But I talked to plenty of reps, talked to plenty of people wanting to get in the industry where they're like, I want a guarantee of all this money, but then they know they won't do the work. And then that's why they're like having this internal conflict instead of the best reps that I meet, even if they weren't in the industry. Like when I came in at Medtronic and I knew my OTE was what it was, I was like, I'm going to beat that. It's not because I'm so skilled. It was like I was determined to get better. And so every day I actually got better. I actually reached out to people. I networked. And so going for the people that are trying to break into medical device sales, like, are you actually doing what is required to get into medical device sales? If you're a person that's actually in the industry and you lost your job or you're looking to change, are you doing what is expected? Because too many of you rely on your resume. Too many of you rely on what you did in the past. Let's just talk about it. There's a reason that the rear view mirror is so small, but the windshield's so big. What are you doing now? What are you focusing on? What are you growing on? Stop talking about what you always did and what are you actually doing? That's like what I talk about in med device. I was like, I give you guys the past so you guys can know, because then they're like, oh, why should we listen to you? And then I just show it and they're like, okay, well, that makes sense. But it's like what we're doing here now with med device companies, now what we're doing in new to medical device sales, what's happened in the last 90 days to now what's going to happen in the next 12 months is absolutely exciting. And it's amazing. No different than when I was in med device sales and what we're doing. It's, are we getting better every single day? Kobe Bryant, are you getting 1% better? Are you going back and reviewing what you've done the day before? Like I used to keep a notebook and be able to go track month over month. Hey, how am I getting better? Right? Things I didn't know to things I do know. And so when you guys are showing up for these interviews and you want to break into medical device sales, or you want to get the promotion, you're making 110, you want to go for the job for 180 or 200, like we just mentioned, why should they hire you? Because again, going back to you just saying, hey, my resume, hey, my past, hey, I closed this deal, whatever it is, great. But what did you do to show up? And that's the number one thing that these CEOs are talking about is in the interview. What are you doing in the interview to show that you can actually do the job? Because again, going back to, I've seen it. I have these CEOs telling me on a daily basis that they get on these calls. They have these reps that have 3 years, 5 years, 7 years experience. They tell them what they did at their last job. They say they have their relationships. They come in, then they don't follow up. They don't have the work ethic that they promised. They don't do the things that they said they needed because they've gotten too comfortable. And now after 6 to 12 months, they're doing turnover. And now they just wasted everybody's time, the rep's time, plus the company's time and money. And now they have to restart because they're not getting ambitious people. And that's the last piece of all this is, there's nothing I can really say to you guys. If you're listening to this podcast, hopefully this is helpful, but it's like, actually be ambitious, like actually want more. Like I just had a call with one of our team members. Like I've never grown to just be like, oh, I'm doing this for like, let's just say for the money. The money is just like a byproduct of what you do. Like if you're in med device sales and you go from a commission check of 4K to then 8K to 12K, then 20K, 25K, what that's showing you is you're just getting better. And again, yes, does money buy financial freedom and have this stuff? Yes, but all money is a transfer of value. And so like what we've always talked about here at New to Medical Device Sales and what I've done for my life is, am I getting better in every aspect of my life, right? Am I becoming a better person? Am I becoming a better leader? Am I becoming a better rep? Am I becoming a better friend? Am I becoming whatever that is? But are you actually growing in those aspects? And then are you going to go put in the work to do it? Because, you know, I think about this all the time. Is everyone going back to over promises and under delivers? Everyone's going to tell you what they're going to do, but then no one does it. I think about it even today. Like I'm training for High Rocks. If you guys are watching our vlogs on the New to Medical Device channel, like I haven't got to do all the stuff that I wanted to do because like I said, the last 90 days have been crazy. that's an excuse. I'm like, okay. But today it's like, I just went and ran 5 miles. I kept the 7-minute pace and I haven't ran in 2 weeks. And it's like, that sucked. It hurt. But guess what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares that I'm running that. It's just for me. But number 2 is I woke up and I would much rather not go run 5 miles at a 7-minute pace. I was like, I'd rather just hang out. But guess what? It doesn't matter. It matters like that competition that I'm doing requires minimum 5 miles. So like now in the next 2 months, I'm going to be up to where I'm keeping that same pace, hopefully in 10 minutes or that pace at around 10 miles. And so it's just getting better every single day, every single week, every single month. And there's something that will never hit. And just so you guys know, I don't mean this in the mean way, but if I'm saying this and you're like, well, I don't get it. I don't know why you would want to be that ambitious and stuff. It's why you're going to lose always. It's why you're going to have somebody who's hungrier than you come and take your spot. Because again, what people will never understand is the true winners, the true people that are top performers. It's not quote unquote about the prize. It's about getting better, right? Because it was no different than being in med device sales. And it's like, I never thought I'd make 100K. And then it's like, okay, I never thought I'd make 30K in a month. And then I'm getting commission check in 50K. And then I never thought, hey, I could run a company on the side and all the stuff that you do. And it's like, you just keep getting better and it keeps growing with you. It's the last thing I'm going to just voice on this is, got the opportunity to go over the holiday season to Switzerland because my girlfriend, she didn't have her son. So we decided to go take a trip. We were over there and on my flight over to Switzerland, I met a guy who first off was an amazing human being. We just started having a conversation, one of the nicest guys, but then talked to him and he sold multiple companies. He was just sharing his experience. He's extremely well-to-do dude, made a lot of money, very successful. But the one thing that really blew my mind is his opportunity to learn, grow, and always stay hungry. Because I talked to him, I'm like, hey, you've already exited multiple companies that have done well. Like just to give you an idea, he was sharing a story about like when he was hanging out at a Formula One race with the CEO of McLaren. All I know is you ain't hanging out with those kind of people without being in those kind of rooms. And so the reason I'm saying that is I'm like, what keeps you going? What keeps you hungry? Because I always love to hear people's why. And he's like, I literally had nothing. And so it's never been about the money. It's always been about the growth. It's been about the opportunity. And then again, what you guys really start to learn is once you make the money, like again, I just want people to hear me and hopefully this hits someone really well, is most people are chasing the money. But again, if you make 150, that's nothing to the person who makes $1 million. And to the person who makes $1 million, that's nothing to the person who makes 10 million. And the person who makes 10 million, that's nothing to the person who makes 100 million. The reason I'm sitting here telling you, if that's all you're trying to do and you're just going off the money and that's it, that's your indicator, like just don't understand, like there's always someone beating you. Like we used to say this when I was doing fitness, there's always someone taller than me, more fit than me, better looking than me, that has more money than me, and all those different spots. If you want to do that comparison game, don't get into that comparison game. Get on the comparison of making yourself better than you were yesterday. And you do what you say you're going to do. You reach out, you do the research with these companies, you network with these people, you reach out to the VP of sales or the managers, and you actually know what you're talking about, not just asking for a job. And then you actually show that you can provide the opportunity to make their company a lot of money. You'll make a lot of money. And then stop being like, oh, what's my guarantee? All the stuff compared to, I've never had that. I literally told Innovis, I wish you guys didn't pay me for the first 6 months or 12 months because I want to make sure I return my investment. I'll never forget, like, Elliot's like the nice guy. And he's like, yeah, but mate, then you couldn't work here because we have to make stuff. It was really nice. But the reason I'm just sitting here telling you is the best people that I meet in the industry and take them out of the industry, best CEOs that I meet, the best salespeople that I meet. Yes, we're all motivated to a piece by money because otherwise you want to do everything, right? Like we don't work for free, but in the same respect, it's not the only thing. And it's about the ambition of getting better, being better than you were yesterday. And that's what's the most fun for me is like literally, I think about myself 4 years ago. And that's when I travel to Switzerland and do all this stuff is I always do the reflections. And I think about, 6 years ago, I just moved out here. 4 years ago, I got into med device sales. Like look at my life in the last 4 years. And then look at my life when I left Medtronic to go to Innovis. And then look at my life when I left Innovis to go full-time on new medical device sales. And even I haven't even been full-time just in this for 12 months, like in what we've already accomplished and what we're already doing. And it's like, give us another 12 months, right? And what I've just learned is I've grown so much more as a person. And there's growing pains. There's things you're going to learn. There's going to be mistakes, but it's like not beating yourself too much on the mistakes, maybe apologizing when you have to apologize, but getting better every single day to grow to the person that you're supposed to be. And that's the thing I just think about is Matthew McConaughey. And I'm going to leave you all with this. Matthew McConaughey, who's your hero? Me in 5 years. And then 5 years later, they ask him, did you make that person? Not even close. Well, who's your hero? Me in another 5 years. And then he makes the comment about how he knows he's never going to catch that person, but he's going to chase that person. Because each level unlocks a new person, new responsibilities, a new way to look at life. And that's what I just want for each and every one of you. So go for the job, go for the new promotion, go for, if you lost your job, go for the other opportunity. But make sure you're just showing up in a different way than you always have. Because again, if you always did what you always done, you always get what you always got. If you're making 120, why are you going for another job for 120? Go for 200, but actually show up to be that person for 200. Because guess what? You might not get the 200, but you might get the job at OT of 150 at plan. It's 30K more than you were making. And then with a little bonus, maybe you make a little bit more, but you learned a whole new skill set and you showed up a little bit better. But I can just sit here and say to every single person I'm talking to after I talk to these CEOs and all this stuff, it's the ambition, it's the drive, it's the intangibles that you can't teach. It's the people who do what they say they're going to do. It's the people who don't have to have their hand held, babysat. It's the people that are self-starters. It's the people that want to get better just for the fact of getting better that I see that continue to progress in this career, continue to progress in sales or in companies, in business. And that's what I would just encourage you all today, because I make these just to hopefully make you better in your current role. And I just want you all to know that if you continue to focus on getting better, whether that's communication skills, whether that's getting better at sales technology, whether that's actually reaching out to people who've had more experience in the industry or closed bigger deals or mentors, whatever it is, just continue to progress yourself, because if you're able to do that, you're going to see a whole new side of your life that you've never seen before. So I hope this was helpful. If you guys feel like this was helpful, please share it with somebody. If you can press that like and subscribe button, it would mean the world to us. But again, I just want you all to know, I want you to win. I want you to keep going after your dreams. I want you to continue to make it. But I also want you all to know, I made a LinkedIn post about this today, is I'm not here to have you be average. I'm not the person who's like, oh, you want to make 110K and work that? That's great. That ain't me, especially if you're in med device sales, because the average rep makes $177,000. So the people we work with and the companies we're looking to place and all this stuff, I'm not looking to just try to have you do the average, because again, life is too short just to be average. It is go make the life you want, all the dreams. And to that, here's the last thing I'll say to that. If your goal is to make 110K, be happy, do all this stuff, great, go do that. But most of the people I talk to is, I want to make 200 grand, 300 grand, 500 grand, whatever it is. But then they aren't willing to put in the work, and then they play the victim, and then they're going to just complain and tell everybody else how they didn't hit their goals. But your goals, one decision away, and just committing and not stopping. See you on the next one. Peace.